Hello, twisted humans. Do you find yourself wanting to know more about the latest murder, conspiracy, cult, or haunting? Then this is the podcast for you. I'm Alecia. And I'm Sierra, and this is Twisted and Uncorked. Hello, and welcome to your favorite podcast. This is episode 181, and today we are on to our special topics. This particular topic was suggested by our Patreon member, Natasha, and she has been waiting for this one for a long time. So it's finally felt like the right timing to be able to do it. But I will warn you, it is a sad topic. But I think it opens up such a different scope and a side to the stories that we usually tell. But I will get into that soon. First, Sierra, do you have a fun fact for me?
I do have a fun fact. It is fun and it is a fact. When I tell you it, you're going to be like, oh yeah, duh. But like, you don't think about it. Okay. So flames don't have shadows.
Because, that's like, definitely not something that you think about, but now that you've said it, it feels obvious. Yeah.
Right? Like when I saw this, I was like, that's so cool. Wait, that's so duh. Like, why do I think that's cool? Why did I not know that? It's a
I think it's cool.
Of someone holding a match, a lit match, and you can see the match, but not the flame in the shadow.
Freaky.
Right? That's so weird.
We light candles all the time and stuff. You'd think we would have noticed this by now, but
yeah, you just don't pay attention to that part.
I also just think that like science and light manipulation and everything is just very cool. So
yeah.
I said science like I wasn't meaning all of like research and eternity of life, but you know what I meant. Just science, guys.
Science in general.
Science is cool. And speaking of not being cool, this fun fact immediately caught my eye because when I was younger, I lost my 2 front teeth as like some of my first adult teeth. And then, of course, those are the first teeth that grow in. So I had a smile that was much larger than the rest of all of my little teeth. And my cousins used to call me Bugs Bunny. And it used to drive me nuts. So my fun fact is about Bugs Bunny. And it states that the term or catchphrase, "What's up, Doc?" originated in Dallas, Texas. Apparently, it was a local high schooler named Tex Avery who had attended North Dallas High School. He began using the phrase among his group of friends and around where he grew up when a Looney Tunes animator overheard him using it and decided to implement it into his character that he drew, which became Bugs Bunny. And I kind of
hope he got paid for that.
I hope so too. I imagine so. Like if he's credited with it, I would imagine so, considering
you can't use his likeness for free.
Yeah, you like when you Google your name, I'm sure if you were Tex Avery, that would come up on Google.
I hope so.
Also, but I thought that was interesting.
Leave it to Texans to name their child in Texas Tex.
Oh, for sure. Right? Like, really? What would that even like? That wouldn't be short for anything, I imagine.
Maybe Texas.
I love it. And also along the topic of loving things, I am really enjoying this week's red wine. I found the perfect wine for this week's episode, and it also is Texas related, and it is called
your case. Okay.
Texas related, one might think. Clearly, I'm on a roll of doing these things. At least I'm not rhyming anymore. So, I mean, you got to pick your battles with me. But no, you guys love it. But I actually I had no intention of picking a wine from Texas on purpose. But considering they're known for more of their hard liquors than their wines. So I wasn't specifically looking, but I walked along the U.S. wine section and I found a bottle that was called Skeleton Key Proprietor's Red. And I thought that it was interesting because of my case being something that you could debate on either side and, like key secrets, who knows? I don't know. I was just being silly about it, but it is really good and I'm quite enjoying it. So the skeleton key comes from Texas, like I said. It is the 5th version of the red blend that they've created over the years. It displays spiced apple notes on the nose that give way to dried red, cherry, and bright pomegranate. The wine explodes on the palate. It's decadent, dry, smooth, and fruity with vanilla and toasty notes that brings it to life. It's a medium-bodied and food-friendly wine, and it is recommended that it's served slightly chilled. Now, you don't have to tell me twice to chill my red wine because I usually do that anyway, because once you've opened it, it preserves it a little longer. Ask the queen of leaving a bottle of wine in her fridge for weeks. When I went to Sierra's house last, she had a wine bottle that had been in there for 2 weeks. I simply cannot. But it is really good. It is very easy to drink. And like I've said on the show many times, I am a sucker for a red wine in the winter. There's just something like cozy and about it. So I'm excited.
They're listening to a podcast called Twisted and Uncorked. So I am probably the weird one. But other people who don't listen to crime and conspiracy podcasts that revolve around wine, they probably do the same as me.
Yeah. I mean, life's expensive right now. I can't really say that I blame any of you.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, yeah, it is that definitely. But also, I don't drink a lot of wine. So when I buy it, I drink some and then I put it in the fridge and I save it for a special occasion. Wine is like a special occasion,
That's fair. I like to believe that every day is a special. No, I'm joking. I don't actually drink wine every day. I would poison my liver and die. I do indulge definitely more in the summer than I do in the winter, but it's been like a rough couple weeks and a rough couple days at work. So yeah, I'm on to my second glass today, folks. But I usually purchase boxes of wine. So it's very rare that I get to have like a nice bottle like this one. So I'm excited. This is normally a $34 bottle of wine, and it was on sale for $16.99. So
boxes of wine definitely last even longer.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, my box of wine
I
I'll
could
have in
leave
the
it
fridge
in
all
there
month.
for 6 months,
Yes.
because there's no air touching it. It's
no,
in
that
one of those
face was
bags.
more how did you make a box last 6 months? That was more what that
Some
was.
of the boxes are big as fuck. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Canned wine, though, is something that, like, I understand ecologically speaking, the lighter the product, the less damaging it is for it to ship because it's using less fuel. But I can't, like, wine out of a can just tastes different, and I just can't do it.
When you said canned wine, I looked at you like, what the fuck? Because I was picturing in a soup can, not in like a pop can. And I was like, wait a minute, they make wine in like cans? Yes, of course they do.
What is Canada doing? Yeah,
I
don't know.
Oh my gosh. I'm an idiot.
You're not an idiot. That's super funny that you said that. And it reminded me of a comment that I saw from one of our newest patrons, Stacy. She's like listening backwards, and she commented on an episode where we were talking about bagged milk.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, we definitely have that in Minnesota. So shout out, Stacy. Different countries.
Yeah, but we've talked about this before. Minnesota is basically Canada.
And yeah, it's true. I don't think any Minnesotan is offended by that. But I will say, if you live anywhere that has wine in soup cans that you got to open with a can opener, please let me know.
I mean, I was picturing like cranberry sauce and that comes
like
in
a
a can.
pull tab. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, they do that for wine too? No, they don't. Probably.
No, but that's going up there with my favorite Sierra quotes of all time.
That'll last years. That'll make it through the nuclear war. That's how they need to be doing it.
Yeah, you're putting it in your like emergency kit when shit hits the fan. When all else fails, open this can of wine. Toast. Toast to you.
Yes.
And speaking of toasting to people, we are going to get into this week's episode. But first, we are going to hear a quick promo. Our friends, Kelsey and Emily, over at a Trial by Podcast, and we will be right back. Welcome back. Like I said, today we are talking about cases of accidental deaths or involuntary manslaughter. And my case leaves a little bit open to interpretation. However, there isn't a lot of information expanding into the events that unfolded into detail because there were so few people that were witness to it. That, and it does involve a minor, so there's a little bit of gray area with sharesies. So today I am telling you the story of 15-year-old Emilio Milo Flores. He was enjoying the summer before his 10th grade in Alvin, Texas. And he did have a few summer classes that he was supposed to be attending, but he was looking forward to the next year ahead and hopefully joining his high school's basketball team. On the evening of July 18th, 2016, despite having summer classes starting the next day, Emilio wanted to enjoy the last little bits of his summer because he was going to be going to school for the rest of it. And he asked if a couple of his friends could come over and hang out, maybe spend the night, but they would leave early enough and it would not interrupt his first day of summer school. So his parents conceded. They're like, sure, I guess it's your last kind of free night. We'll give you one more. Among his friends was Logan Anderson, who was 18. Now, I saw conflicting reports that there were multiple people sleeping over versus just Logan, so I can't say for certain, but that is a relevant fact. Around 5 a.m., Emilio's father, Jose, reported being woken up to what sounded like a firecracker going off. He and his wife, Rita, came out of their room to the back patio, and at first, from the position and the heavy breathing that they heard, Rita thought that maybe their son was sleeping, which is, you don't normally sleep on the back patio, but that was most likely her brain trying to protect her from what she really saw. Emilio was bleeding and struggling to breathe. His friends stood around him completely shocked, and Logan Anderson told Jose that he had shot him by accident before fleeing the scene. Allegedly, the other teens had witnessed the shooting and reported that he was in a complete state of shock before he left. Among the teens was 18-year-old Christina Guerdo, and she ran off with him. So I don't know the full story here, but maybe they were dating and she was there to pick him up that morning because, his parents said that they had to leave early and that's why they were up early.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what the case was here. That's also why I saw conflicting reports of them sleeping over, because why would an 18-year-old girl be sleeping over with, like a couple boys? I don't know about you, but I was not allowed to have sleepovers with members of the opposite sex when I was a teenager. So,
Yeah.
but the reason I say all of this is because you don't know who's where at what time and like what happened this night, like why this is how this ended. So it's just all very strange. But all of that to say, I don't think that there's really anything sinister to make of that. I saw in articles that she was pretty ripped apart about it. So who knows? There is no apparent motive, and there were no conflicts between the two boys. In fact, they had been really close friends for a long time, having grown up in the same neighborhood and among the same friend groups. That and there were two other people there, allegedly. So if you're planning on shooting your friend, why would you do it in front of two witnesses?
Yeah.
It is circulated as an alleged accident, but there were only 4 people that day that know exactly what happened, and one of them isn't here anymore. Jose tried to give his son mouth to mouth to help him in any way that he could before his son rapidly died in his arms. All of the newspaper articles are titled 15-year-old boy dies in his father's arms, and it's honestly devastating. I can't imagine that powerlessness that his parents must have been feeling. When police arrived at the scene, Emilio was still sitting upright in one of the patio chairs, and they were told that the shooter had fled the scene. Jose said that there was no guns in the house, so that this must have been brought into the home.
Mm.
Police did manage to track down the teen where he was brought into custody, but the gun was found dropped 2 blocks away. Now, to provide both sides of the story here, it is possible that he ran out of fear. He was legally an adult at this point and the oldest member of the group of friends. A very serious and tragic event has just happened here, so I understand that side of it. And many people point at guilt for the reason that he chose to run away. So, I mean, it's really hard to say what Logan's motives were in this instance.
Yeah.
The gun did indeed belong to Logan, like I said, although none of the parents involved, including his own, knew that he had one. In a haunting correlation, Emilio's sister was just teaching her own kids about the dangers of guns and the importance of safety surrounding them. Never did she think that someone in her own family would be made an example of the exact same thing, especially her baby brother. And to give context here from what I've witnessed in interviews, she's a lot older than him. Like, I think she's like double his age. So she's like, she looked at him as like another one of her kids.
Yeah.
Which, you know, you see in your situation as well, the age gap that siblings can have. So it's just really sad. Emilio's family wants him to be remembered as the happy-go-lucky kid that he was. Quote, "It's hard for me. I wish it were a dream," said Emilio's sister, Joanna. "We had a joke on him. We used to call him the golden boy because he was just such a good child." End quote. A year and a half later, in January of 2018, Logan Anderson, now 19, was found guilty on 1 count of manslaughter and sentenced to 4 years in prison, plus 10 years of probation after the fact, being found guilty of tampering with a deadly weapon. Now, I think that charge is important. Now, Logan was completely cooperative in the investigation and in the questioning. He admitted right away to what he had done to the parents, and he seemed to show true guilt about the loss of his friend. So I'm wondering if maybe he had recently procured the gun and was showing it off, you know, showing off to his friends, like, oh, look, it has this feature, and it accidentally went off.
Okay, you're going to get to the tampering though, right?
That's where the tampering comes into play. And what, like, I don't know what happened here, but because that was the specific charge, I don't know what else that could mean. Like, could he have done something to the gun that made it like not fire properly or not lock properly?
Had to have. That's,
yeah.
I mean, that's what tampering means.
Yeah.
Tampering means changing it, you know?
Yeah,
it had to be
fair enough.
It had to be
I was thinking like playing with it.
Yeah, but I don't think
that's irresponsible.
Right, of course. But I think that I feel like there would be a different word for that. Tampering feels like you did something you weren't supposed to do to
and that
it
comes
with
specifically from the court documents. So
yeah, he must have modified it in some way.
Between the two of us, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But don't worry, you do need to teach the people your little safety rules. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't remember. I block it out because guns scare me.
There's 4. Yeah.
This is why I should never handle a gun, because they scare me, and therefore I am not responsible enough to use it or comfortable enough to use it. I didn't even like going to the shooting range for my dad's birthday. Stressed me out. So yes, maybe that's what happened. Maybe he did do something. Maybe it went off when he had pulled it out to show people. Like, who knows? I have no idea. In Texas, you have to be 18 years old to buy a gun. But I also saw 2 different reportings. One was You have to be 18 to buy a long gun, and one that you have to be 21 to buy a handgun or like a pistol. And my understanding of the reports was that this was a handgun. So that leads me to believe that he did not purchase it himself.
Or purchased it from someone on the streets, because that's where 90% of people buy their guns.
Yes, correct. That was literally my next sentence. So I'm not really sure. Yeah, it's a mess. So it was ruled an accident. So that's what I'm going to call it, as this is the only information that is out there about this case. Even the court documents that I managed to find and testimony are very limited with information. And I did actually find this case through a whole legal website about this like defense team for him. So I didn't know anything else about the story. I just saw this big like defense description and like how people were trying to pin it on him as like purposeful and charge him as an adult, and you know, like that there wasn't enough proof as to what had happened and somebody was murdered. Like, so the parents were really going for like for him to be put away for a long time. And then in the other interviews that I saw, his dad said, be careful who your friends are and who you choose to spend your time with. You know, your kids aren't always going to be friends with the people that you like the most. But you know who brings out the best in your children and who you feel safe with them being around. So I don't know if this is just parents being absolutely and rightfully heartbroken after the fact, or if they had already felt these feelings about this particular friend. But they had been friends for a really long time, so who knows? But that's how I found this case, and their name wasn't mentioned on the website at all, so I had to do some digging to find the other side of it. But it more just felt like two lawyers tooting their own horn for all the work that they did. So I was like,
yeah,
I'm glad that it helped me find it, but it's just okay. And I like covering smaller cases like this one, especially sometimes when it has an important message. Accidents like this occur all over the world, and I'm sure I don't have to tell our listeners that given the gun laws in the United States, and that they are where most of our listeners lie, that it's seen its fair share of accidental deaths surrounding guns. We hear about it all the time, but did you know that the statistics of 2022 indicate that 6.5% of firearm-related deaths in the US are preventable or accidental, and 1%, such as this one, are considered undetermined? This is about 500 deaths per year on average. The majority are suicides and deliberate homicides, the rest of our niche on this show. But 83% of the unintentional firearm deaths occur among boys between the ages of 14 and 17 years old, whether that means that they're the shooter or the victim. None of this is to make it a political statement or a debate about gun laws and what should and shouldn't be done, but it is relevant to this particular story, and it is important to hold space for heavy discussions like this because tragic accidents do happen. In fact, just 2 days ago on my news feed, I saw an article about a 22-year-old named Yanisa Mina from Fresno, California, who was shot and killed by her 2-year-old.
Jesus.
The firearm was stored in a location where the toddler was able to access the firearm at some point while her mother was laying in bed and access the trigger. Unfortunately, when this occurred, it struck her mother while she was laying down. When officers arrived at the apartment complex, Mina's 58-year-old boyfriend, Andrew Sanchez, was starting to take her to the hospital. But first responders stepped in, and unfortunately, she died later at the hospital. The boyfriend is now being charged with improper gun storage, but that is really haunting as to how, like, now this child not only has to grow up without their mom, but like, that's the environment that they were put in. Like, how do you let a 2-year-old get an access to a gun?
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, having worked with firearms and experienced with them on safety and protocol and proper storage and blah, blah, blah?
Like, for instance, I think that every gun should have a safety, and not every gun has a safety, and that's fucking stupid.
Like every type
Um,
of gun.
yeah, like every
Yeah.
gun made in the world should have a
Should
safety.
I agree? Yeah.
Uh, but a lot of even pistols don't have safeties.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, because it's quicker. Like, what if you're pointing a gun at someone, you need the slower. Okay, you need to be able to think about it for a second. You're about to take a life. You don't need quicker, you need slower.
Hmm.
Every fucking gun should have a safety.
And you
Um,
always see those cases, like the cases like this last one I just mentioned, like where it's children that get access
yeah,
to it and hurt somebody unintentionally,
yeah. Also,
you
all
know?
guns should be kept in a gun safe, or a locker, a sort of place where children can't get to them.
Not in
Also,
your
if you
glove box, in your under your pillow,
some glove
all
boxes lock.
yes, but
If you lock
still.
it, it's fine. Lock it.
The
Lock
places
the
I've
fucking
seen people
shit.
keep guns, I'm like, why?
Yeah. If you are deciding to have a gun in your house and there are children there, they should also know about it. Like, it's not, to me, it's not something that should be kept secret, because then it's more intriguing.
Hmm.
They need to know about it. Obviously, they don't need to know how to get to it, but they need to know how to handle it properly. I'm not telling you that you should teach your children how to shoot, but they should know this button will cause it to shoot. They
Hmm.
should know what the fuck it does.
Hmm.
There are the 4 universal gun safety laws that I was taught in the military. However, the first one only counts if your gun has a safety, which ours did. The first one is treat every weapon as if it were loaded, which means even if there's no, people are like, there's no ammo in it. Haha. No, pretend there is, because sometimes there is. I don't know if y'all watch Tiger King, but that guy was like, there's nothing in it. See? And actually killed himself because he thought it wasn't loaded. He took the magazine out, but they were still around in the chamber, and he accidentally killed himself.
I've seen that with a bunch
Um,
of cases where people have
yeah,
goofed around being like, there's no ammo. Who
yeah,
knows if this was one of those cases? Like,
right. Yeah, that's very possible. So treat every weapon as if it were loaded. Even if you see it's not loaded, it's still a deadly weapon. Treat it as if it were loaded. Um, number 2 is never point your weapon at something you don't intend to shoot. And that means if you're pointing at it, that means you mean to shoot this. So if you point a gun at someone, that is
joking or
intent.
not.
That's what intent is. Okay. If you have a weapon and you're pointing it at the ground, that's one thing. When police officers have their guns out, they're not supposed to point them at you. They're supposed to point them down. They're not supposed to point them at you until they're ready to shoot you. Police
Which we
officers
also
suck at
see
that.
false
But
practice of
you're
that all the
not
time. Yeah.
supposed to point a gun at anything you don't intend to shoot. If you're pointing it at someone, know that it can go off, like in this case. Keep your fingers straight and along the receiver until you're ready to fire, which is the third one. That means that when you are taught to hold a weapon, at least in the military, you are taught to never touch the trigger until you're ready to touch the trigger. Like, your fingers are straight
That's
and
what I
then
was taught
you
too
shoot
when I went to
once.
the gun range.
When I vacuum, my vacuum cleaner has a button like
That's a
that.
little
I vacuum like this. I vacuum with my fingers straight. It's a habit to me. Anything
it's
that has a
funny.
trigger, I keep my
I
fingers
could see
straight.
that. Yeah.
I, Jesse told me one time, he's like, do you have your finger straight and along the receiver of our vacuum? And I'm like, it's just habit. And he's like, you're such a tool bag. And I'm like, you know what? This is a good habit
Uh,
for me to have. I don't even
yeah.
fucking care.
I'm not
Like,
saying that
I'm just
Jesse ever
used to
vacuums,
it.
but does he not do that?
He does not vacuum. Wouldn't know. Um, and then the last
That's
one is
funny.
keep your weapon on safe until you're ready to fire. That's another thing that police officers are supposed to do, but who knows if they do that. Again, some police guns, as a military cop, there were 2 different guns that we were allowed to have. One of them didn't have a safety. And I
That's
was like,
wild to
I'm
me.
not fucking carrying that.
Yeah.
I don't want it.
You could accidentally shoot yourself in the foot just walking.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So you're supposed to, you have your gun. Are we even allowed to say gun on podcasts anymore? You
I
have
don't
your
know.
weapon pointed with your
If no
fingers
one
straight
hears this, we'll know.
and your thumb is here. Okay. This is where your safety is. When you're ready to shoot, you okay. First you take off the safety, then you pull the trigger. Like that's the
A
order in which you're
two-step
supposed to do it.
process.
Yeah.
It's a
It
slowing
gives you
down of the
time to
process.
think. Do I
Yeah.
actually want to fucking do this? Probably not. Probably I don't have to do this. Like, just, hit him with it or something.
Yeah.
Don't
I
shoot
mean,
it.
that's enough of a self-defense if that's needed too. And I
Yeah.
think I'm not saying that Logan Anderson was irresponsible. We don't know how he procured the gun.
I
We
am
don't know
saying that
what.
Logan Anderson was irresponsible. I don't care. I don't need to know. If you shot a gun at a person,
Yeah.
automatically you're irresponsible. Don't point it at them. Treat it like it's fucking loaded, even if you think it's not. Don't put your finger on the trigger. You're irresponsible. Why was it pointed in his direction? Like, that's a problem.
Yeah,
Irresponsible.
I'm not really sure what had
4
happened on
years,
there.
I think, is good. I
Yeah.
think. Do we know where he is now?
No. As far as I know, his identity has changed and he is
Well,
living his life. So
that's good, but I hope he learned from this in a positive way and became a good person to
did
society. Not
something with
that
it.
this is a bad person.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we're not
not a
saying he's a bad
responsible
person.
person.
What I was gonna say is like 18 is very young. Like you
Oh,
think
yeah.
that you're an adult and you think you know so much. And I'm sure in this friend situation where he was one of the older teenagers that hung out, maybe he was trying to like show people something. But to me, the most responsible thing that I can admit is that I am not comfortable holding a gun or handling a gun,
Yeah.
and I should never handle or play with a gun. Like, so I'm just like, it makes me sad that instances like this are available for people that maybe shouldn't be, or had a tampered gun or something that they bought on some side market back space and has forever changed their lives because of like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue with gun laws, by the way, is that no matter how many laws you put on guns, it doesn't change how many guns are on the streets.
Correct. It's
That
like drugs. You
gun
can make
trafficking is the
weed
problem.
legal, but there's
Yeah.
still going to be avenues of illegal drug trade.
Yeah.
Or you can make safe injection sites, but that's not going to stop people from doing it the bad way. I know
Right.
nothing about bad drugs, clearly, but I know that that is a problem. It doesn't help. It doesn't eliminate the problem.
Yeah.
So, I think that Sierra's experience with it is a response that always stuck in my head was don't point at anything, like don't have your trigger on the don't
Yeah.
have your finger on the trigger and point it at anything you don't intend to shoot. I know that gun violence is a very heavy subject, and it is a little taboo, and maybe part of me chose to cover this for that reason. That, and if you see a picture of Emilio, he's just the cutest teenage boy I've ever seen in my life, and it's just like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I just want to end this by saying that the losses that these families experience are profound. There's no denying that. But true accidental deaths change killers forever. And I have killers in quotes there.
Yeah.
When I was trying to find a case to cover for this week's episode, I ran into so many interviews and real accounts of those who have been responsible for someone's loss of life completely on accident in many cases, and how much they still feel that pain and that trauma. Like that guilt never goes away. In some cases, it's almost like two lives are completely lost. Some people manage to find beautiful ways to honor the person's life or pay it forward to families and communities. But for some, the guilt is too much. And there is, drug and alcohol abuse and possible suicide. And, it makes them not the person that they once were. I honestly can't even imagine, but one story from my adolescence sticks out with me in terms of an accidental death. When I was in the 9th grade in August of 2007, we used to walk from where I went to high school to a local strip mall where they had little lunch places and a gas station and places to get snacks and treats, that you waste your money on when you're 14. And I remember one particular day vividly because the Pharmasave on the corner of the strip was taped off with caution tape and there was emergency vehicles everywhere. I remember that when my mom picked me up that day, she told me and my brother what had happened, that the car had jumped a curb while trying to park and had pinned a 6-year-old boy between the wall of the Pharmasave store and the vehicle. He died en route to the hospital. The woman that was driving her car was in her 50s, and it was a complete and total accident. But I can't imagine with what she lives with or what she lived with if she is still alive every single day since that day happened. So it's like the amount of stories that I've watched are just like these people have like profound, prolonged PTSD and they've tried to do the right thing. Like somebody's come out on the curb and caught them by surprise. I really had a hard time picking a story for this one, and I appreciate Natasha bringing it forward completely. But it was for reasons like this, because you could go in so many different directions with it. And I thought about misunderstanding the assignment so that it wasn't as heavy, but it happens all the time where, like, somebody accidentally hits a cyclist that swerves in front of them. And it's like, that's not your intention on your way to work to kill somebody. So it's just like, especially not a child. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. It's devastating.
This
And
is the number one reason why I refuse to drink and drive. Because that is another instance where you can literally kill somebody and then you have to try to live with that. And I couldn't.
I know that this episode could have gone in so many different directions that I've kind of covered the all-encompassing version of it, knowing that Sierra's misunderstanding the assignment next week. But it is just really, really sad. And I think that one of the biggest factors in this is how go, go, go our lives are all the time. And it kind of takes like that mindfulness, that focus out of it a little bit. So I just encourage all of our listeners, especially during this crazy holiday time, you just take a beat, slow it down for a minute. You don't need to rush to your next destination, even though you feel like you need to. And just be fucking careful.
Yeah.
And like Sierra said, I really hope that Logan is able to do something beautiful to honor his friend. And that is my story.
Goodness.
But it's important to talk about, and we don't always get to. So, all of that said, I think it's extra important to mention something that we are both thankful for or looking forward to before we roll on out of here.
I am looking forward to, hopefully, when this comes out, we'll know if it happened, right? Does this come out after Christmas?
Yeah, because we are releasing a bonus in between.
Okay.
So this comes out on New Year's.
So I am my husband is attempting to take me on a little trip for Christmas this year because we won't have either of our kids with us, which is really sad for me. To a little Christmas village in Georgia. And I'm super excited and I really hope that it goes.
I'm putting it out there that it has happened, that's what's occurred, and that
it was
we're going to
amazing.
hear
It was
about
so
it
great.
On Bitch and Wine / bonus episode in January.
Yeah.
All happy things to report. I am very much looking forward to the fact that I came home today and my husband has started his Christmas baking, as it is mid-December when we are recording this, and he has the best Christmas baking ever. And on long, stressful weeks, sometimes you just need fucking chocolate and to feel good. So do it the Gilmore Girls way. Okay, people? And we love you so, so much. If you enjoy the podcast, please don't forget to leave a 5-star rating and review. It really is the best way that you can spread the word. And it makes our hearts so happy to know that you like what you hear. If you're craving some extra bonus content and you too have some downtime this holiday season, you can check out our Patreon page starting at $1 a month, where we have so much fun stuff. And we just got some new goodies to give the patrons.
Yes, finally.
And don't forget to recommend us to somebody that you think might like the podcast. And And that is that. We will see you next week for Sierra's special topic episode, different edition. And
didn't misunderstand the assignment too much, by the way. Okay, it is still a manslaughter case.
Yes.
It's just
it's a hot topic of debate.
Not official. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we got more
trial
room.
ongoing.
We
there
got
will
more
be
wiggle
updates.
Room. Yes. Right. It was me that was completely going to misunderstand the assignment, but that it's a different. I wanted people to know it was different. Okay.
It is different.
And we love you so much. We will see you next week. And in the meantime, keep it twisted.
Twisted and Uncorked is a proud member of Weirding Way Media. Hosted and produced by Sierra Zorn and Alecia Watson. If you like the show, don't forget to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you are listening now. It really is the best way to spread the word. You can check out all things Twisted on our website, twistedanduncorked.com, and we will see you next Tuesday for a brand new episode.